All right, guys, so now we are going to talk about the chapter 18.2, which is about variation. You have to see three types of variations: the direct variations, the inverse variation, and the jointly variations. So if I would have to say a direct variation, like y varies directly with x, you will always write y equal k times, k being the constant of proportionality, and it's directly with x, so it's going to be multiplied with x. Now, if I end up to have y varies inversely with x, that would mean that you always have y equal k times, but it means with the inverse of x, so you take the inverse of x. Last one is y varies jointly with x, and you could have whatever you want, the inverse of p, the inverse of p. You will always start with y equal k times, jointly with x. So first you're going to have with x and with the inverse of p, so 1 over p. So now let's try to solve some problem. Let's try to work on the problem number 17. On this problem number 17, what do we have? V vary directly as the square of h. So v vary directly as the square of h. So you will have to take the square of h. And they are asking you to find the constant of proportionality. So if you want to find the constant of proportionality, you're going to write k question mark. And obviously that means that you will have to isolate k from the formula. To isolate k, you need to get rid of the h square, and the only way to get rid of the h square is to divide by h square to have the h square divide out, meaning that you need to divide also on the left side by h square. Therefore, you got k equal v over h square, v equal 48, and h equal 4, corresponding to a h square equal 16, and so k is basically 48 over 4 square, meaning 48 over 16. I can clearly divide 48 by 4, which is going to be 12, and I could divide 16 by 4, which is going to be 4. I can still divide 12 by 4, and the answer is going to be 3. All right, problem number 20. On this problem number 20, we have v is proportional to t and the square root of s. All right, so we have a joint proportionality, we have a jointly variation. So a v equal k times, and it's proportional to t and the square root of s. Now the question is find the constant of proportionality. So obviously k is going to be to have the constant of proportionality, I have to divide by t, and I will have to divide by the square root of s both sides. And so now I end up to have k equal v over, let me write that as a proper v, over t times the square root of s. They are telling you that v equal 80, t equal 5, and s equal 4. That implies that k equal 80 over 5 times the square root of 4. The square root of 4 being equal to 2, you got 5 times 2 on the bottom, which is 80 divided by 10, and the answer is going to be 8. Let's try problem number 21 now. On this problem number 21, we are defining so the question is find y. So the question is find y. Let's write find y by writing y equal question mark. When x equal 10, so when x equal 10, when y vary directly as x. Okay, so I'm going to write y vary directly as x, y varies directly as x, y equal k times x. So obviously, if I want to find y, I'm missing the value of k. So I need to find k in order for me to find y. So therefore, from the formula, I am going to isolate k. To isolate k, I will have to divide by x both sides to be able to have x divided out on the right side of my equation, and therefore having k by himself. Now k is equal to y over x. And to find k, you need to have a value of y and a value of x. The value of y, they are telling you when y equals 200, x equals 16. X equals 16. That means that I'm now able to calculate k as a 200 divided by 16. So if I divide 200 by 4, I'm going to have 50. And if I divide 16 by 4, I'm going to have 4. So k equals 50 over 4. I can use my calculator and write 50 over 4 as a decimal. I decided not to do it. And so now I can calculate y because I know it's equal to k times x. I know that x equal 10 and k equal 50 divided by 4. So I'm going to write y equal 50 divided by 4 multiplied by 10, which gives me a 500 divided by 4. I can divide the top and the bottom of this fraction by 2. That gives me a 250 divided by 2. And 250 divided by 2 equal 125. So as you can see, I don't really need to have a calculator. I can do that by myself using my brain. All right, now let's try to do problem number, and I will, excuse me, to come back to that answer, but I think it's very important that every single time you can use your brain to do very simple calculation, divided by 2, divided by 3, by 5. I would suggest you try to do it instead to use your calculator because it helps your brain to stay active and not to be lazy. So let's try to do problem number 25. So if I do the problem number 25, find y. So again, the question is find y. So y question mark. For q equal 0. Find y for x equals 6. X equals 6. Z equal 0.5. And they are telling you if y vary directly as x and inversely as z. Y varies directly as x and inversely as z. So that is your expression of y. And obviously, again, you will need to find k in order for you to be able to calculate y. So from this formula, I am going to express k by himself, and therefore, I need to get rid of the x and the z. To get rid of the x, I will have to divide by x both sides. And let me rewrite my y on the top of my fraction. And I will have to multiply by z both sides to get rid of the z divide out, x divide out. So now I can clearly have k equal y times z divided by x. To find k, I need to have y, I need to have z, and I need to have x. Are they giving me y, z, and x? Yes, they do. They are telling me y equals 60 when x equals 4, and z equals 10. So I can calculate k. K is going to be equal to 60 multiplied by 10 divided by 4. 60 divided by 4, and again, I can simplify the 60 and the 4 because you have a multiplication between 60 times 10. 60 divided by 4 equals 15. So in fact, I got 15 multiplied by 10, and k equals 150. Now I got k, I can calculate your y. Y will be equal to 150. I would like to remind you what is y, times x, excuse me for that, so times x, x being equal to 6, so times 6, multiplied by the inverse of z, and z equal 0.5. So multiplied by the inverse of 1 over 0.5. Let's take a look on the side a little bit of what is equal 1 over 0.5. 1 over 0.5, it's 1 over 1/2. And if I decide to convert the main fraction bar right here into a multiplication, I do not change my numerator, but I flip my denominator, which is going to be 2 over 1. And so therefore, I can clearly now see that 1 over 0.5 equal 2. So y, in fact, is equal to 150 times 6 times 2, which is 300 multiplied by 6, and the answer is going to be 1800. All right, guys, I'm going to stop right here because I hope that basically you would understand that it's always the same thing. From the 3 variations, you will have to express a formula. From this formula, you will have to find k by itself. They will give you what you need to calculate k. Once you have k, you can calculate the variable you are looking for. You can use your calculator, or you can try every time you can to use your brain to do very simple calculation. Thank you, and I will jump on the next section.